This is video number 12 of my weekly series where I try to make $180 a week selling covered calls on HIMS stock, and this week I failed. In fact, I had a pretty big loss that we'll talk about in a second, but first we have to do a little housekeeping here. I'm changing the way that this series is being filmed. It used to be every Monday at around 4 or 5 o'clock I would post, okay everybody, here's what I did today, here's all the trades I made, and most of them expire on Friday, and then I'll do the second video on Friday with an update of like changes that happened or whatever. Here's the problem. Selling covered calls for income weekly carries a lot of risk, and it can be expensive. And a lot of people who are following this series are here to learn, but some, unfortunately, are here to copy. Like I said, you gotta have high risk tolerance, you gotta have a lot of money. I have both of those things, and I have experience. And a lot of people were just blindly copying. Tuesday morning, they would do exactly what I had done, and then, well, sometimes the shit hits the fan. And I got about 40 DMs last week from people saying, I copied you, well, why'd you do that? I don't know, man, I thought we'd all get rich together. And a lot of people are sitting on some pretty big losses. So I'm going forward, in an effort to tamp down as much copying as possible, I'll be just filming this video on Friday with a recap. This series is for you to learn, not to copy. One other bit of housekeeping to set some boundaries, because some people are taking a lot of advantage. The simplest thing I ask is you follow me. If you follow me and you ask a question or you message me, I'll respond. No follow, no response. Now, first things first, we got to go back in time a little bit, all the way to July. I had these two positions, QuantumScape and Enphase. This one I'm still holding. It's around $7 or $8 right now. So I'm sitting on, as I talked about, a pretty sizable loss. And I'm deciding what's the right move here. I still haven't made up my mind. Do I want to cut the losses or not? I don't yet know. The other one was Enphase, which finally paid off this week. We'll get into that in a second as well. I had QuantumScape from a few weeks ago that got called away. Archer Aviation from a few weeks ago that didn't get called away. 100 shares of HIMS that I purchased for the series. You know, can I make $180 a week? And you can see a few weeks ago that I did. But a lot of people have been asking, why don't you sell cash secured puts? And I said, when the time is right, I will. Well, a few weeks ago, the time was right, and I did. I sold some cash secured puts, 3 contracts, which meant I had to hold around $17,000 in cash in the event that I got assigned. Problem was HIMS dumped. It went way down. So instead of getting assigned, I rolled the options. If you're saying, I don't know what any of this means, just click on this playlist. There are videos here in the playlist that will explain it. But I rolled the contract, took a small loss, and then the following week, HIMS continued to drop, and I was coming to terms with the fact that I would either have to roll it again or just get assigned. Now, at that point last week, HIMS was around $47 a share, and my contracts were at 52. With a cash secured put, that means 52 is what you buy it at, no matter what it is lower than 52, right? So it was 47, I'm agreeing to buy it at 52. And I allowed myself to get assigned because I felt, using technical analysis, which as always is not a guarantee, it's an indicator, I felt with the selling pressure kind of in the past and technical analysis looking very bullish, or at least setting up to be bullish, I figured, you know what, let me get assigned at 52. I'm bullish on this company long term, doesn't really matter, 47, 52, and it's an unrealized loss. That's the key word here. I didn't mind stepping into an unrealized loss. Unrealized means it's not a real loss. It's only a realized loss when you sell it and it becomes official. You've actually lost the money. Until you sell, you ain't lost shit. So I thought, well, I'll buy it at 52, even though it's 47, I'll have an unrealized loss, and in a week or two, the stock will bounce back up into the $52 price range, and I'll be able to generate premium on the covered calls. Problem is, it didn't happen. Instead, HIMS went even lower. There was more bad news for the company, and the company ended up dropping all the way to 41. Now remember, I bought it at 52. This is what I'm talking about. I got so many DMs from people saying, I copied you, and oh no. You shouldn't be copying. If you don't understand this and it's complicated to you, you shouldn't be copying. Unfortunately, last week and this week, I was not able to make a lot of money selling covered calls because I had to hold $17,000 and then $15,000 in the event that I got assigned. And then I did get assigned, and the stock was so low that I couldn't sell covered calls to generate premium on the HIMS stock. So it was just sitting there, and I had a limited amount of money left over for this strategy. So let's take a look at this week. So I purchased 400 shares of D-Wave. I purchased 100 shares of Rivian. This was for an instructional video. Someone said, could you do a walkthrough video on Rivian? So this was not meant for income. It was meant for education. And I bought 200 shares of SoFi. So for D-Wave, I made $261 or 3.9%. SoFi, I made 2%. D-Wave did not get assigned. These shares dropped, so I'm holding these shares, but I think it's okay. And I will just sell covered calls next week. SoFi, the shares did get assigned, and Rivian also got assigned. So I got back $4,300 here, I got $1,200 here, and on top of that, I had Enphase and Archer Aviation. Now, Archer Aviation also didn't get assigned. This was from the previous week. Archer Aviation didn't get assigned, so I just had these shares, and the stock dumped earlier in the week, and the premiums were like non-existent, so I didn't make any money from this one either. But today, Archer Aviation came back up. I sold it basically at break even just to get my money back. So I got back $3,900 from this. And Enphase, last week on the 13th, sold a covered call to expire today on August 22nd that also got assigned. So I got back $10,647 from that as well. So full recap, this week I spent $12,126. I made $365 or about 3%. I was assigned on SoFi and assigned on Rivian. This means I got back around $20,000, which is great for me because I'm still sitting on 400 shares of HIMS and I'm holding 500 shares of QuantumScape at a loss as well. So what I thought was going to happen last week with HIMS ended up happening today. So you can see here the stock is in a big downtrend, and I said eventually it's going to level out and it's going to do two things. It's going to cross over the 50-day moving average, which is this yellow line, and it's going to cross over this blue line here, which is the 200-day moving average. This is a very bullish indicator. I thought it would happen last week. I was wrong, but it did happen today. So I think in the next week, 2 or 3, HIMS will be back up in the low 50s, hopefully. You can see it's 44.57 at close today. And I think in a few weeks, I will be able to start selling covered calls for income again on this position. Problem is, in the meantime, it's about $20,000 in HIMS, $5,000 in QuantumScape. That is money that I can't access. This is what I'm always talking about. This is why this strategy can carry a lot of risk, and you really need to know what you're doing before you do it. All right, that's the video. Thanks for watching. See you next Friday.